and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. In this episode on early takeoff syndrome, I want to discuss what's quite an important question, and that is the point when you say to yourself, my dog shouldn't be doing agility for its own safety. So I've discussed a lot of positive things about early takeoff, what it means, how you can adjust as a handler, whether training and things can help it. And on the whole, I believe that a lot of dogs can be helped through ETO to be successful at agility and to limit risk of injury. But we do have to assess and say sometimes a dog is so reckless with its jumping style because of its vision issues that it could actually be in danger of causing itself a problem, an injury, and we don't want to do that. At the end of the day, this is a hobby. It should be fun for us and the dog, and we have to be our guardians of our dog's welfare. So what does it mean in terms of early takeoff syndrome? What are we talking about in terms of injury? Now, for the most part, early takeoff syndrome means that the dogs will knock a pole. And these days, poles are extremely lightweight. They're made of plastic with some weight in them. So they are actually really good for knocking. They do fall really softly and sensibly. And we're looking and seeing a lot of new materials being brought into the sport, which making everything a lot safer. For instance, we're seeing foam walls now. So if you imagine a foam wall, if a dog hits that, misjudges that wrong, it's not going to do itself too much damage. Really good idea. Same we're seeing with foam long jumps, long overs, and they're a really good idea because they're protecting our dog. Because anytime our dog is falling on something hard like a wooden long jump or a metal long jump or hitting a wooden pole, what's happening is we are potentially creating an injury. I mean, if we fall on a wooden pole or anything like that, we're going to hurt ourselves, we're going to bruise ourselves. You do that too often, you're going to lose your confidence doing jumping, but also you're going to be potentially leading to a bigger problem going on. So equipment is getting safer, so it's less of a problem for dogs with ETO, thankfully. But we do have to look at and say to ourselves, are some dogs jumping so badly that they are dangerous to themselves? Now, I've got a small dog with ETO. I'm lucky in that regard, in the sense that she jumps so relatively low so that most of the time, if she does take a pole, which I have to say is quite rare these days, she's not going to do herself much harm with it. Most of the time, if it goes, it's usually a foot clips it, so it's barely noticed and it's done. However, I have seen occasions where she has effectively landed on a pole because she's completely taken off too soon, and she's sort of face planted her chest on it or even belly on it. That's obviously going to be a potential injury hazard. As I say, with the plastic poles, it's a lot safer and nicer, but we still do see wooden poles, and with wooden poles, if you do something like that, it's going to hurt. Unfortunately, it used to be said in training, and I've heard it said to me about Sparrow, that if a dog constantly takes out poles, put up wooden poles so it hurts when they take them out and then they'll stop doing it. That's not why a dog takes out poles. A dog isn't doing it because it's easier. It is not about doing things like that. You don't want to punish that dog. You've got to ask yourself, there's something going on with this picture. Why is that dog struggling to get enough distance over a jump? So let's ignore that. Now, as we go up heights, certainly to full height, large and intermediate, if we've got a dog that does early takeoff, then we've got a lot more problems going on. Supposing our dog comes up to a jump and it's full height and they completely misjudge it and they hit the pole with their chest or lower legs like this, they're going to fall because they've knocked themselves, and they're going to fall flat on their face, and because of the height they're having to jump to do it, there's more of a risk injury of what they're going to do. I mean, any of us, if we trip and stumble, it can hurt ourselves. But the higher we are from that trip and stumble, and the more we're going to have to land on that ground with an impact, the worse it can be. Again, heavier the dog as well is going to have an impact on that. So we have to be fair to our dogs. If we have spent time on the training, if we've spent time having them assessed, if we've made sure they're fit for purpose, if we've done all the things we can and they still are chronically taking poles, and I'm not necessarily saying if they just clip them, I'm saying if they're taking poles badly, by that I mean they're hitting them with the chest, they're landing on them, those sort of things, rather than just a clipped pole as it goes down, then I think we need to ask ourselves, is this dog safe to be doing this sport? because it should be fun for us and it should be fun for the dog. And some dogs will power through even when they are taking poles like this. Some dogs won't. Some dogs will say to you, I've got Shelties, and my Shelties will tell you if they've taken one pole, they aren't going to do any more jumps in that ring. Nope, didn't do that, not going to do that, because that's who they are. Some dogs have got such a strong work ethic that they will keep pushing through even when they are hurting themselves. And they are doing this because they want to work so hard. So then we have to be their advocate, and we have to say to them, okay, this isn't fair on you. I know you're going to try and do this for me, but it isn't fair because you're putting yourself at risk. When do you make that call? It's a decision that everybody's going to be unique for everybody. It's not going to be something that I can say to you, well, if your dog has done this so many jumps, blah, 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 then you should call it a day. Because there's so many elements going on. And I know with Sparrow, she's now 7 and we've done a lot of work. And, even up to a couple of years ago, I didn't know the things I'd done now, and we've improved and got better. I think it comes down to an individual judgment call. We look at that and we say, that dog's not happy. I mean, I see dogs running and they're doing the stutter step, the early takeoff, which is part of the early takeoff, and stuttering, and they're really struggling over jumps. And I go, I don't think that dog really should be out there running that. That's not to say they might be fine if they did like a lower height or medium. And you look at that dog and think, it doesn't look terribly happy doing what it's doing. But because it's the sort of dog it is, it will keep doing it for the sake of the owner. And then there's the other case where people saying, oh, my dog knocks it occasionally, the bar occasionally, and maybe I should give up. And actually, with a little bit of training, that dog could improve. So it's going to be an individual call, and it is one of them grey areas. And at the end of the day, we all have to leave it up to ourselves. I would say if your dog is regularly, and by regularly I mean pretty much every time it runs, taking a pole badly, so it's not just clipping it, it's face planting on it, it's knocking it, and you have worked through a whole series of exercises from rear end awareness, strengthening, it's been checked over by physios, and you've tried jump education, etc., 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 then maybe you have to time you say, okay, this isn't fair and there's time to stop. But I can't tell you when, and nobody can tell you when. It's just that moment when you have to think about it. I think we find that mainly it's large and intermediate sized dogs that are the ones that get retired from agility because of ETO, simply because of the height factor, and then it's obviously harder for them when they are misjudging jumps, as small and medium dogs get away with it much more. So this is sort of ending the series on a slightly not negative note, but sort of a down note. And I think we have to talk about that element and understand that there are other things we can do with our dogs if they aren't running right at agility, and we don't want to end up with a dog that's in pain and hurt. On the plus note, and I will go back to this, I think there's a lot that can be done for ETO, and I think with the correct training and working and fitness, a lot of dogs can successfully compete with ETO. I think it's something we're going to still keep learning about. I think there's a lot we still don't know, and I think we're going to find that over the course of time we're going to learn more about how we can help this condition. Maybe there'll even be things we can do to help the eyes, or there'll be other things we do, and we'll learn a lot more and we'll see it become less of an issue, hopefully. So I hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video, and if you do have any questions about ETO, please drop me a message on Facebook or whatever, and I'll try and answer them. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, and you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we also now have a Buy Me a Coffee supporter page. If you want to come along and be a supporter, do so and come say hi, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon.